Joe Kovacs, welcome to Throws Talk, and thanks for giving up your time to be here with us today.
Oh, thanks, Shaun. It's great. Glad to be here.
Okay. Let's find out a little bit about yourself. I know you went to school at Penn, is that right?
Penn State.
But your hometown?
Hometown's Nazareth, Pennsylvania, okay. Just north of Bethlehem, Allentown area. People know about it.
Yeah.
And I went to Bethlehem Catholic High School and then went on to Penn State.
Okay, so a local guy in a local school. You had some success in college?
Yeah, for sure,
and,
for sure.
Then you made the transition to throwing in the pros and coming out to California and training with Art. That transition probably was pretty difficult the first year or so, adjusting to life.
It was definitely different, but I knew it was something I definitely needed to do. In college, I was coached by TJ Crater, and we had a great time together. And he took a job at Washington my senior year, so I didn't have him for the whole rest of the year. And Andy Bance kind of was our interim coach, and he was very helpful and definitely helped me out. But I knew I definitely wanted to be coached by one of the legends, and Art's definitely that. And he had the system, and that's what I really wanted. I wanted to believe in something and know. I was always told maybe he was very cookie cutter. You knew exactly what he was going to do, but that sounded perfect to me because I was always picking everything else that everybody was saying. There's a lot of forums out there that people say what to do, what's working, what's not working, and I'd jump around to whatever was the new fad of Mac throws that week. But at the end of it, I knew I needed somebody who was going to day in and day out tell me what to do, how to do it, and not question anything. And that's what Art's been for me, and it's been really successful. Yeah,
Art said to me when he said when he first came across you, you said to him, look, I don't want to look at videos, I don't want to deal with any of that stuff. You just tell me what to do and I'm going to do it. Absolutely,
and it's been great since then. That's why I love working with Art.
Yeah.
Try not to get hung up with all the different angles here and there, I think it all matters. I mean, Art and he always shuts me down once I get a little too detailed, because I mean everything we are doing is it is detailed, but I don't want to get hung up on one little thing.
Right.
I just want to keep everything moving, and I think that's what Art's been doing for me.
Yeah.
That's been very helpful.
Well, he certainly likes working with you. He considers you a throwback to the old school days, and just a guy that likes to lift weights, which is appeals to him as well.
No, absolutely. I love the weight room. I was always told, when I was growing up, I think I told you this earlier, I was always going to camps. I went to a John Powell's camp and Iwood camp, and I met this guy, it was John Godina, and he was a legend and big guy, and all these little clinics were saying, you don't need to be strong, you don't need to be this, just be able to jump and do plyometrics, and I think that's 100% correct, but I think I needed somebody to tell me, you need some base numbers and you need to hit them.
Yeah.
And Godina told me that when I was in high school, and then now I'm working with Art, who I didn't even put the connection that they were even together until I actually was with Art. But that's definitely what I needed, just some base numbers, some raw strength, and I think Art definitely appreciates that, and that's one of the things I enjoy doing.
Yeah. I asked him for a comparison between you and John Brenner and John Godina, being two other 22-meter shot putters that he's coached, and he said one of the big differences for him was that you liked the weight room more than those guys did. That those guys were strong, without any question. They said, but they like to do other stuff and didn't like to get down and dirty in the weight room, and he said you appealed to his character in terms of getting in the weight room and moving lots of weight.
Well, I'm definitely glad he said that. I do like the weight room. I think it's, I feel at home in there. I do like knowing that as long as everything stays safe, I do see a correlation of everything. If the weights can rise in the weight room without disturbing the throw technique, I think it does correlate to a farther throw for me. And we try to keep everything safe. I work with Jamie Myers in the weight room there, who, Art writes my program for lifting, but Jamie makes sure I can do it without getting too ambitious. So that together, I think, is a great combo I have there.
And Jamie looks to try and keep the speed element in there?
He keeps the speed element. He also he will definitely dumb it down for me when I try to make it too complex or try to push it too hard. We always have a couple Rocky analogies in there that just don't want to meet the Russian too quick. That's what we always joke about. So keeping everything safe, keeping it moving well, and staying fresh. So Art comes down every other week, and definitely want to be the fresh when the days he's there, because
and there are always people are always then talking about your strength levels and things like that, and we've been lucky enough to see you in the weight room and move some weight around. Give us an indication of your exercise that you like to do and what levels you're at.
It definitely changes throughout the year, and throughout the years it's running around. I know Art always talks about base levels. He likes to have a 400-pound clean, 500-pound bench, 700-pound squat, and I kind of came in with around those numbers. But since I've been at Chula Vista, I think I've been able to do them for more reps, and that's been the big difference for me. Being able to do them safely. I remember in college, some of my old teammates will probably hear this, and they remember when no belt, no lifting shoes, you're just squatting heavy and holding your breath and trying to go quickly. And sure, that got strong, but it definitely wasn't safe to do at the time. So now just having a systematic approach of just raising the minimums across the board from the throws to the lifts.
And he also, when I was talking to Art, he likens you to a guy he used to have at UCLA called Dave Wilson, Iceman, who was probably the strongest guy, certainly pound for pound, the strongest guy they had amongst all the great throwers they had there. He wasn't the furthest thrower, but he was a pretty small guy, but incredibly fast. And he likens you to him and says you're a bigger version, a thicker version of Iceman. So see some of those same traits.
Well, I actually got to meet Iceman too 2 years ago, which is always nice. So Art said, you got to learn everything from this guy. He brought the intensity every day. So he was an awesome guy to meet, and I'm glad to be compared to him for sure.
Right, yeah, all the UCLA legends of throwing that so many have been through there, they all talk about him. They all talk about Dave Wilson, because he was about 5'10" and probably about 100 kilos, 220 pounds when he was throwing, and but could move weight and could throw all the events. So
yeah, there's things I've heard that through UCLA, there's always everybody has the same story about him, that he would bring it every day. And he'd always talk about it's got to go. It's one of his saying, it's got to go, and that's, I think, a perfect saying. There's days, especially like today, you know, a little beat up from the weight room, and you just got to make it go. You got to dig in and know it's there. So.
And that's good. You have an environment of practice with a good group of people. You train with Eric Worski and a couple of other people that keep you on your toes. And there is a great deal of intensity about it. There's a great deal of camaraderie, and that's a good environment to be in. For
sure. I mean, we have Tia Brooks too, and you know, sure, I throw farther than Tia distance-wise, but every day I challenge her to the same three-step drill, and she beats me. But I know one of these days I'm going to, so I'll call her out in this video for it right now. But yeah, so every little thing like that, we try to keep it light, a good training environment. A new addition to the shot group is Richard Garrett. Has a little hand problem now, but I see some big things coming from him too. So it's a good group to be in.
Yeah, it's nice to have people around you to train with. Also, this year has been pretty spectacular for you to start with. 3 meets so far and an average probably close to 22 meters. So today was, by your considerations, maybe a little bit of an off day, 21 meters. But it's been a pretty special start to the season. What was different this year from last year? What were you able to do over the winter?
I think the things that happened last year allowed this year's training to be different. You know, last year our big goal was to get a title. We got the U.S. title outdoors, got the 22-meter throw, which we knew was always there. But it was just, there were some minimums we had to do last year, and we got them out of the way. So it allowed us a little more breathing room in the fall to, you know, not do the indoor season, take some time, build up a bigger volume of throws, and kind of go into the season really prepared and everything strategic. And we had the plan for everything. Even today's mark was planned to be around there. I know. You always hope for the big throws, and you know, there's a foul there that probably could be a little bit farther, but at the same time, you know, that's the plan. It's a small 4-throw meet. We always want to open well. That was Art's big thing, even when I first started working with him 3 years ago. You know, be able to open well and maintain. So that's the goal, and I feel definitely really good going into the next couple meets.
You had a little bit of an injury problem over the winter, and Art said it came from doing gymnastics.
Yeah, I did. We worked with Phil Cheatham, who's also our biomechanist at the training center, and he was an Olympian in gymnastics, and it was one little more element to add in there for this year, and it was a little injury, a little tweak, but just a little minor setback, but I mean, it was fun. You know, going around the high bar doing giants, some front handsprings.
Fun to see that.
Yeah, it's fun to do. So yeah, I guess I should post some of those videos, see 300 pounds spinning around. Exactly. But no, it was definitely fun.
And what are the plans for the season ahead? Now you've got this little few meets out the way, and now you're really coming into perhaps the bigger meets of the season.
Yep, definitely excited to go to Doha next week. Prefontaine's always a big one. I don't think I'll be going to Rome, but I'll definitely be going to New York. It's nice we have 2 Diamond Leagues in the U.S., so definitely thankful for that. But gearing towards USA's for sure, and definitely going after Worlds this year. You know, I've never made a World team, and that's not only just the goal, but there's also a bigger goal behind it too. So that's the plan.
I think a lot of people don't understand the difficulties of being a shot putter in the US, in that actually probably your biggest meet of the year is the US Championships. Your biggest threat is the US Championships. There's so many guys there that can come out on any given day, as you did last year, and surprise the field and surprise some of the established stars.
No, for sure.
That's a tough one to focus on, yeah.
For sure. I mean, it's also a good thing too. I mean, I try to look at the positives. When you're part of the U.S. shot put system, I mean, the hardest meet is going to be USA's, but when that happens, you expect to do well at Worlds. I mean, I looked at all the people who were my heroes earlier on, and they would always do well in the big game because they already got past. They got past their hard competition of the year in the U.S. Championships. It's something to be said that our marks for the U.S. Championships are sometimes farther than the Worlds or the Olympics, and that I think is a boost of confidence once you make the team. So yeah, it's hard to make the team, but once you make it, I think you have to have that level of expectation that I'm already on top of my game. I've seen it all. I'm ready to go.
Sometimes it's been a little bit difficult in terms of programming and planning for training because they appear quite close to the World Championships or something, and so you know, you got to peak for the US Champs, and can you hold that peak? Now you got a little bit more time, I think, between the US Champs and the World Championships this year. That gives you a little more time to prepare and focus on the World Championships. For
sure, and I think the biggest thing for me is, I don't question. I'm just going to ask Art. I trust him, and I know that sounds like maybe more hands-off for me, but that's what I need. And I trust him. I think he's seen it all, and that's the one thing I really enjoy about working with him is, I don't have to plan too much. I trust his opinion. I trust what his system is and his plan, that I can just go in the ring and perform when he tells me to perform, and it's definitely a confidence boost for me as the athlete.
There's been a lot of talk after the first couple of competitions. You opened up at 22:35 and then another 22-meter throw, but a huge warm-up throw, that second competition. So there's a lot of speculation that sometimes brings with it pressure, but I've actually noticed around you that you haven't let that bother you, and Art's been good about trying to make sure that there's not more pressure on you. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, we were just joking with Art, like we measure the fish that get back to the dock, but not the ones that you didn't get. So, I mean, I always hear things, warm-ups. I've always been a big warmed-up big guy, but I'm trying to warm up. I'm not trying to, somebody else is measuring these throws afterwards. I mean, in college I would hear, oh, that was 22. And you were there at UC San Diego. I actually think I warmed up bad, which is kind of weird to say because of that. I ran to the bathroom and they moved up the time, so I ran back and some people were already throwing. I didn't really hit the normal routine of a good stand throw and good full, so on that throw I just tried to stay relaxed and move through the throw, hoping to warm up for the actual meet. I'm not looking to win warm-ups, and if somebody else wants to measure, they can, but I'm worried about the meet, and that's
and I was actually more impressed with your 22-meter throw in the meet because of the conditions. And people don't understand how difficult it was with the rain, and US circles are not really set up for rain in California.
Sure. Yeah, I'll definitely take it as like the rain PR, I guess. We talked about it afterwards because the circle wasn't that easy to push on, but I knew physically it felt well, so just trying to raise the minimum of no matter what the conditions are.
So we got the year ahead. What are your goals for this year? I mean, you've already come out all guns firing, but you must have some thoughts in your own mind.
As of now, just keep it going. I mean, everything feels good. I have no physical injuries right now. Tweaks here and there, but that's just part of the game. So I think that's the big thing, is being able to raise the minimum of practice standards compared to where we were last year, compared to where the practice before, and go into every meet with a plan. Last year, I think, or especially the first year when I got here with Art, we were kind of changing a lot, so I always kind of felt like I was chasing a throw or chasing a distance, and now I don't think I have to do that. So now it's just kind of nice going in with an expectation, a plan, and not to really get hung up by either way. If it goes good, it goes bad, because we know what's happening next.
So your heroes growing up, we talked about John Godina and meeting him. Are there any other throwers that you've...
For sure, being a little guy, you have to love Nelson. I mean, the intensity he brought, for sure. I mean, I always, at one point I thought I had to throw exactly like him, for sure.
That's not easy.
Yeah, it's
not. Tried.
You can make the ball go far that way, but I just haven't been able to be consistent. But no, Nelson for sure, he was a big one I always looked up to. Reese, I was a camp in high school, and this guy with this giant calves are there, and I'm doing the glide at this point, and this guy walks over and says, "Man, you're too short. I think you should do the spin." And kind of from that day on, I worked with a good high school coach, Glenn Thompson, and he also coached Ryan Whiting. So, you know, I started working with him after, you know, hearing that the spin technique might be a little bit better than the glide for me. So I just remember Reese telling me that, and I tell him to this day, I was like, "This is your fault, you know." You told me that, so.
Yeah, he's probably not so happy about that now that he's now battling it out with you.
Yeah,
22-meter man.
No, for sure, we joke, but they've all been super helpful. Christian last year been super helpful. All the guys who I always, you know, look up to now competing against. It's kind of fun. It's different, but they've all been really helpful. I hope I can continue the sport for a long time and do the same for the young guys, because it's definitely different. Being on the road, the way meets are set up. Everywhere you go, it's not the same. It's not being at home. You hear some weird rules that you never heard before. You just got to roll with the punches.
And there was some adjustment for you when you first went on the circuit last year, and maybe weren't so happy with some of your performances, but you came through at the end and and had some good performances and final.
You know, the real goal was U.S. Championships last year, and sure, it would be nice to get the Diamond League, the bid, but, you know, Reese is a veteran, and he knew exactly how to plan the season to get that bid for the U.S., so I'm glad he has it for the U.S., and he knew what to do. But I think after U.S. Championships, we had to make an extra plan, which was fine, but there was a little bit of a dip in between there, and realized what to do for this year. So just took it as a learning experience, and was able to still get the ball to go out there pretty far at the end of the year.
And you're still only 25, so you know, this is 3 years as a pro since college, so there's a long way ahead.
Oh, for sure, I hope so.
Joe, thank you very much for spending some time with us, and really appreciate it, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Awesome, thanks, Shaun.
Okay.